Right then, you lovely lot. So the main focus of this video is to have a lovely day's fishing with maggots. I'm going to cover two completely different rigs. One that'll catch you pretty much everything swimming in the old wide world, and the other for when there's lots of fish in your peg, just getting straight down to them so you can catch even quicker. Nice and simple. So first things first, we're going to go through elastic. So the beauty of fishing with maggots is that you're going to catch everything swimming, so you need to make sure the elastic is not too heavy. You know, we don't really bump in them fish, so a nice all-round elastic. So solid wise, you're looking at between a 6 and an 8 solid, hybrid around a 7's hybrid, or hollow something like a 6 to an 8 hollow or something like that. Anything in that range will be perfect for your maggot fishing. This is 7's Dura I've got on. Main line, I mean, 0.16 will do you absolutely everything. Bearing in mind it's still blooming freezing, so we're talking about maggot fishing for sort of like now, this time of year, up until it gets warmer in, if it ever gets blooming warmer, folks, but we're talking sort of like middle of March, aren't we? Something like that. So a 0.16 or 4 or 5 pound breaking strain in old money. Now the first rig, this is going to be our tapered one, so for when it's really hard and cold and you know, bites can be at a premium, that's when you come onto this rig. So a 412's float, carbon stem, which I'll talk you through later, and then coming down to the shotting pattern. So we've got my favourite tapered, reverse tapered shotting on for this one, folks. So it's all number 10s through the rig. You can see how far the last one is there. It's just below 18 inches. We've got a 0.10 hook length on, 4 inches, and it's an 18's hook. Dead simple. So basically your first shot goes just above your loop to loop, and then the same distance again to your next shot, and then you're just gradually getting closer and closer. I have talked through this one before in the shotting video that we did, but again, it's so simple. Just gradually get closer and closer until obviously you can't put any more shots on because it'll sink your float, but nice and simple. We'll talk through plumbing up in a sec. So that's the first rig. So as I say, bites are at a premium, it's really cold, just basically stick on that rig all day, folks. You will get bites on it. But when they rock up, like, you know, when that light starts to go, or, you know, it goes a little bit milder, that's when you come onto this one. So exactly the same elastic, exactly the same main line, but much more positive float. So it's a 4/16s on this one, so around about sort of 0.5 of a gram. Coming down the rig, the shotting is completely different. So you'll see we've got a bulk of number 8s, and then we've got 2 number 9s as droppers. So again, exactly the same hook length, 4-inch hook length, 18s, 0.10, but it's this business here. So you can see, remember on our tapered, you know, the end of the shot was up here somewhere. Look where that bulk is there. So basically what's happening with this one, when the fish rock up in numbers, you're getting straight down to the bottom, and then these droppers are kicking your maggot out away from obviously this bulk of shot here, so you're not getting tangles, and then you're getting straight down to the fish. Much more positive. So when they rock up, it's an amazing rig, that one, folks. So them are the two, you know, basic rigs that I'll cover for all my sort of like maggot fishing for this time of year. I want to show you plumbing up next, so let's go through that. All important plumbing up them, folks. And I'm doing exactly the same on both rigs. I'm looking to find the bottom of the slope, and I'm going to plumb up to the bottom of the body of my float. So nice and simple. Main things, the two main things is picking markers. So with 2 markers, one on your box and then one across. So I'm fishing halfway down my box. That's my first marker. My next one, I've got a post on the far bank, which is like, I'm going to say it's a spare peg, but it's not a spare peg because nobody fishes over there. So it's just like I don't know what it is, just like a peg, but it's not a peg. But I'm using the post to line up with. And now obviously I've plumbed up, so I know that's what I'm looking for, because I don't want to be coming sort of like bottom of the bristle, middle of the body or anything like that, because it's quite silty down that middle. Even though it's like freezing cold, I'm not going to rip the bottom up. I want to make sure I'm sort of over depth, and that'll, you know, counteract any sort of wind undertow, things like that. Always plumb to the bottom of the body of the float when you're on sort of like that flat bottom where it's quite silty. So first things first, that's where I'm fishing, that's right bang on my marker. What you want to do is just give it a little bit to the left, you know, maybe sort of like 8 inches to a foot, left and right. Make sure it's the same depth everywhere, there's no obvious holes. Stretch out a little bit, you see it's just starting to creep up a tiny bit there, so I know I'm at the bottom of that slope. And then come back a little bit, just make sure it's the same depth everywhere. Now that is absolutely perfect. So if you are on your markers like that, folks, you know nothing can happen. Next thing to do is go and introduce a little bit of bait, and then I want to talk you through the difference in laying your rigging and how important it is. Obviously with a lighter float, we're going to hold a tight line to it and watch that float through the water, so any like little dinks on the drop, you'll see them. And then on the heavy rig, when we go over to that, there's a couple of different ways of laying that in, you know, to get straight down to the fish. Are we going to go through it now? Oh, we're going to go through it now. The boss has spoke. I'm going to put a maggot on just in case, even though I haven't had a bite yet, folks, so I'm going to put one on. So first things first, let's get a magway on, hooked through the tip. I'm just going to put a single maggot on. Just going to get, don't want to put in loads of bait in, folks, and you want to keep it nice and accurate to start with. You know, if you're noticing the fish sort of coming off the bottom a bit and they're really having a go, that's when you can start to lose feed. But to start with, literally that's all we're putting in, sort of like 20 maggots or something through a pot. You must be accurate. Now if there is a lot of silverfish present, you don't really want to wait long between feeds, you know. This time of year, 8 minutes is more than enough. Come back, put some more bait in, put through a pot. Don't lose feed this time of year. You know how much I love feeding. So first things first, what we're going to do, so I've got my marker. There's my marker on that post there. I'm going to tip them maggots in from a bit of a height, just to create a bit of commotion, and they start spreading out on the water. Now, this is what I want to show you now. With this rig, we're laying it out to the side, bringing it back, and then holding a tight line to that float. I'm going to count that down, so probably at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, probably about 13, maybe 14 seconds for that float to settle. So obviously when I go on to them, oh, we had a bite. I wasn't expecting that. Well, now you had a bite, Jay lad. Let's try again then. So obviously that's watch that bait all the way down. Let's try that again. So we know it's going to take sort of 13 or 14 seconds laying the rigging like that for it to hit the bottom. Now, when there's a lot of fish present, or, you know, well, like that to be fair, folks, when you're getting a bite, as soon as it hits the bottom, you can maybe go onto a more positive rig that obviously is just getting down to the fish a hell of a lot quicker. So, you know, you're not wasting any time. Obviously, from a match perspective, that's what I want to be looking for, you know, getting the maximum amount of peg that I can. Right, so little things we can do to induce a bite then. I wasn't expecting that bite before, but what we can do, because we're on a flat bottom, I've got no problems at all with lifting and dropping. You know, you hear my mate quite often say, "Don't just leave it, Andrew." But I do love a lift and a drop, and I think sometimes it does induce a bite. You know, it grabs their attention. So what I'll do, I'll just lift that float out, so halfway, and then just drop it nice and quick. If there's any fish watching that, you're showing them the bait, and then usually the fish take it as soon as you're dropping that float. Doesn't always work, but more often than not, I do love a lift and a drop, but only on flat bottom. I'll never do it on a slope. So I'm fast forwarding everything. I'm not going to wait for a bite. So that's that rig. Basically, the tapered one, that's how you lay the rig in. So you flick out to the side, hold a tight line so you can see everything through the water. You know, as that float's falling, you can see everything. The other thing as well, that I didn't touch on before, make sure your float's a carbon float. You might have noticed on that one that I had to give it a little bit of a dink. That's because it's flat calm. What can sometimes happen is the float might stick on the water. It won't do it all session, and it certainly won't do it when there's a little bit of chop on the water, because your float will break the surface tension. So just give it a little bit of a flick. Where's another rig gone? Now I want to show you the difference. So that took what, 13 or 14 seconds, that one. I put a maggot on this one just in case. I'm not going to feed it though, and I want to show you the difference. I'm going to lay this in a couple of different ways. So the first way, I'm just going to lay it out to the side, lift my float up, and then drop it. The next time, I'm going to lay it out to the side, bring my bulk of shot into where my marker is, and then flop my float back over it. You watch how much quicker this is. So imagine we've got a peg full of fish, loads of fish there, you know, one a chuck. So the first way is to lay that rig in, just lift our float out, so probably at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's roughly about half the time it's taken for that float to settle. Like 7 seconds. So you imagine a peg full of fish straight down to them. Now the other way, which is even quicker, is to lift the rig out, bring your shot back over your marker, and then drop your float over it. So that's 1, 2, 3. you know what I mean? 3.5 seconds and you're fishing straight away. That is a difference, folks. To be fair, this rig, I probably wouldn't even bother with this rig today. With how cold and, you know, it's hard to get by. I've even got fish blooming blowing. That can't be a fish, that, surely. But towards the end of the session, or when it starts warming up a bit, this is the rig to go for, folks. It eliminates the line bites, you know, small fish sort of coming off the bottom. But when it's hard work at the start of your session, go for the tapered rig. Remember, hold that tight line and watch the bites through the water. When you start getting them or start foul hooking them or missing loads of bites, just get onto this more positive one, so you're straight down to the fishes. Yeah. Right then, Jamie of the Yows with your white trainies on, you've got 30 seconds to tell us all about the winning ways channel memberships. Go!
Well, we have a basic package which basically includes a live match every month and also a Q&A where we get to watch you getting drunk and me drinking lots of water and needing a wee very quickly. And then we also have an all-in package where you can pretty much get all of that, plus you get all the back catalogue stuff. And lots more. Keep everyone happy.
Got 10 seconds. Got 10 seconds. Go on, keep talking. You got 10 seconds.
I thought 10 left. I'm nearly done.
Come on. Keep going, Jay, lad.
It's just dead good. Loads of videos. Me informative. Him being a bell end. It's amazing.
2, 1. We're going.